Okay. Who am I singing to? Well... I'm singing to more than just one person on the album, because the whole album in general is kind of about dealing with loss, losing someone you love, losing family members, losing friends. I was in a relationship before that ended, so I had lost that person. I'd lost their family, who had felt like family to me at the time. My mental health had declined so much over the course of a year that I genuinely felt like a different person. Kind of losing part of yourself as well. Like the song Amnesia as well isn't about that situation, but it still fits within the theme of the album because it's about my granddad who has dementia. So I'm losing him as a person, even though he's still alive, which is quite heavy. But yeah, the whole album is pretty much about that. Just me learning to deal with losing people I care about. The title, Suffer in Silence, well, it started as the song.
I pitched the idea of doing like Nothing Lasts Forever / Everything Ends as sort of like a bookend thing.
It sounded the best. That was the short of it for most of us. I think Jake has more of a personal connection to lyrics and titles and stuff like that than we do.
When you're kind of depressed and you're feeling really low, obviously it helps to talk to people. I am an advocate for that. I think if you are feeling horrible, you should talk to people, but after a while, when you're going through something that's really hard, you run out of things to talk about, and you don't want to keep bringing up the same awful things every time someone asks how you're doing, so you kind of end up keeping it all inside you.
In a nice way as well, I think anything we can do to support his expression of it is vital as well, to be honest.
It's a well-known phrase, suffering in silence. I just thought that encapsulated that mindset very well.
We finished most of the writing, I think, pre-pandemic.
And then obviously we had to slam the brakes on and just push everything back, and we didn't know how long we were going to be waiting to actually start it back up again. We had it in our minds that we'd be recording it in 2020, and obviously that didn't happen.
The problem with it really stemmed from the fact that no one knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Not just us, but I mean no one in the world knew what was going on during this pandemic.
We didn't know it was going to end up being recorded in the middle of 2021.
Yeah, we did like a few video stuff and like phone calls and stuff.
Yeah, but again,
it's not the same.
There's kind of like no point really in doing it. Because you end up talking over each other all the time. You haven't got your instruments in front of you. It all sounds rubbish because it's through a phone. What's the point?
But in terms of actually getting into the studio and recording it, for us, this time was a lot more difficult, obviously, with everywhere being forced to close.
But we don't know when we're going to get back in the studio together, when we're going to be comfortable back in the studio together.
We couldn't all be in the same room at the same time, so we actually had to record it sporadically.
6 of the songs are probably done or nearish done. We don't know when we're going to be getting back to it.
Drums 1 month, guitars and bass another month.
Like Jake and Matt are doing bits and pieces, they're sending stuff over to us, we're thinking about stuff, we're writing bits and pieces. It's still kind of going on.
4 or 5 months later, I went in with Matt to finish his guitars and my vocals. So it was a very different recording process for us, but we still got it done.
It makes it difficult, to say the least, that you can't be together. I think being together is the important bit, and that's where musical fusion happens.
It was months before we could even get back in a room and rehearse together.
It is like an event though, so I think it's like when you go out to do a gig and go out to do a little few weekends away, and it is like kind of time with your mates as well.
Yeah.
Like, although you're making a record, it's something that means a lot to you. It's still time with your boys. Like
you lose the bant.
You do, but you really do. Like if you look at, like, compare this studio diary to the last studio diary.
Yeah, it's crap.
Oh,
It felt a bit more fragmented in terms of recording, but I don't think that's come out on the actual final product.
I think it had its positives too, really. That time gave us is just a little bit of extra time to make sure everything was right, make sure it was tight.
The end result came out great, but yeah, it definitely changed how we went about recording it. This album's quite different from the last album, mainly because we're kind of a different band now, because when we were recording Vicious Circles, Matt had only just joined the band. He wasn't really there for much of the writing process.
Everyone sort of said, we don't want to record the album and you not be on it, because this was the first time that I got to write a whole album with the boys.
Having a new member in the band changed the way that we wrote the songs, really, because he has different influences from the rest of us. We've never really experimented with time signatures in the way that we have on this album. Wouldn't have happened without him, so he's brought something unique to Assimilate. The Suffer in Silence release show was very special.
Watford's always good. Watford's always really good. It's always been really good to us.
We were all quite nervous before because we hadn't played in Watford for a long time. It was just after the pandemic. We weren't sure whether people were going to feel safe, feel comfortable, and we wanted to get as many people in there as safe as possible.
We managed to sell it out. That makes it special in and of itself.
Where we spent my 18th birthday.
Exactly, your 18th birthday, my 18th birthday, again put in a taxi by some table football professionals. But yeah, and it was just to go back there, the place that we'd grown up together, and play the release show was really phenomenal for us.
We've never sold out a venue that big before.
Everyone wants to play like a sold out hometown show. That's like sort of the dream, isn't it?
I think it's also like the wonderful, you get friends and family come and support you and stuff like that, and it's lovely. My dad's always at these hometown shows, and it's wonderful and stuff like that. But I remember going there, and there were loads of people I just didn't know.
Not only were they there in the room, they were involved.
People obviously still want to go see live bands, but also they want to go see local sort of homegrown and original bands, not just covers and stuff like that. So it's still like a thriving music scene even after like COVID and stuff.
If anything, you want to go see it more.
The energy was phenomenal.
Quickest hour of my life, to be honest.
It's one of the funnest gigs we've ever played, probably the funnest gig.
Yeah.
Because it was so brilliant.
It just went in a flash.
I don't think I could sweat anymore.
It was also special because, as I'm sure you can tell, this album's very personal. And in fact, I don't really want to play it live again. The guys will probably talk me into it eventually.
Seeing him finally get to play those live and convey that emotion was very noticeably heavy for him.
Part of me didn't want to be singing those words, and part of me did have that kind of stereotypical man, bottle it all up mentality. But no, I stuck with it and powered through, and I'm glad I did. I think in a way that kind of made the performance, because, you know, as horrible as it sounds, I kind of want to see the singer of the band kind of express themselves and lose it. So that's what happened.
I sort of felt it as well, because obviously we've been involved in that situation, and especially in the last song, so in Everything Ends, you can see in the footage, like, I've got my head on his shoulder while he's singing the last bit, and I'm like screaming the words into his back. I don't know, in the moment maybe that felt like the right way to support him. And at the end of Nihilist, I put my guitar down and we got to do a little back and forth screaming about someone that we wish we didn't know, so that was fun too.
You are nothing but a coward, and now everyone can see. Nothing but a kind of insect. You took everything from me. When my fucking home was broken, my success won't get the ball. Now my fucking on the market. You are running to the sky.
Yeah, won't be playing that one again for a while, but yeah, definitely the best show we've ever done, and my favourite live performance I've ever done.
The best gig I've ever played in my entire life. I don't think it's a night that I'm going to forget anytime soon.
The most meaningful song to me on the album is quite hard to choose, to be honest, because all of the songs are so personal.
Me personally, my favourite song is the single, it's Limerence.
Death Wish.
No, I think my favourite is, and probably will always be, Amnesia.
Everything Ends. It's 5 minutes maybe. It's a very long.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
It's 7 whole
How do we
minutes.
play 7 minutes of music?
Obviously then, you make the video and you start playing it live, and you kind of get into the chorus and everyone's singing along to it, and you go, wow, people really like this and people are really receiving it.
It sort of brings back the pieces from earlier on and brings it full circle, I like to think.
Yeah.
I think it's a sleeper banger, to be honest. I really
I like that phrase.
I really wanted to push that for second single, but I got downvoted. That was situated around Jake's grandfather suffering from dementia. My grandfather also suffers from Alzheimer's, so that one just means a lot to me as well. It's one of those things that if someone else had released that song, it'd probably hit as hard, which
Yeah.
I think is quite a big deal that my mate can kind of do it. It joins me and him together a little bit closer.
For selfish reasons, this is the first record that I got to write with the band in its entirety. Those are the first 2 riffs that I brought to the band, so we got to sit with it and start with this idea and not really know where we were going with it, and then eventually we went, wait, hold on,
And those two songs are probably the funnest songs to play on guitar.
You're welcome.
Definitely. Well, I had my bits.
The hardest for me to listen to and perform, so I guess you could say they were the most meaningful, the last two tracks on the album, Nihilist and Everything Ends.
Because I think that really sums up the whole album and the way the album feels. You're meant to know it's the end of the album at that point, regardless of reading the track list, just musically alone, without Jake's vocals, and Jake's vocals just add that other dimension to it.
When we were first writing Nihilist and I took it to show the guys in a rehearsal room, we all played it together, I sang the song, and I started crying as soon as I finished. So I knew that was kind of part of the climax of the album. I knew that needed to go near the end, and then Everything Ends was kind of a similar story.
We try and just make it feel as climactic as possible, because you don't want to leave on a low note at all. You want the last song to be stuck in someone's head forever. And so we just played it for 7 minutes until there was no chance that it wouldn't be stuck in someone's head.
A very ambitious song for us, because we've never written like a 7-minute epic closing track before, but I knew that I had to kind of dig deep for that one. It means a lot to me because hearing those lyrics and singing those lyrics still hurts, to be honest, and that's why I'm still super proud of it. I still think it's like a special song, but I don't listen to it often and I don't really want to play it live again.
I was quite deflated, almost, because we'd had years and years and years building up to this, and then it was done.
But you do the release show, and you sort of get this, what do I
do now?
What do I do now?
This is what I've been looking forward to for so long.
And the second we finished that release show, it was like a massive weight had been lifted.
Especially because of how long it took to make this thing.
Oh, better do it again then. Another 2 years
what
down,
else do we do?
Another 2 years down the line, we'll be doing this all again.
Yeah.
Next release show at a bigger venue with more people. Like it'll be the same thing. The endless growth. It's just how long it is in the making as well. I think it was like over 3 years or so of this whole thing.
You get stuck living in that world where you're just focused on like, oh, I need to write the lyrics, I need to do the demos, I need to do all this, and then when it's finally out, you're no longer in that mindset anymore. So it feels surreal, but it does feel like a bit of a relief.
Looking back on that feeling, it's quite ironic, because that's almost what part of the album's like, that when you lose someone or something, you feel that loss. But then quite healthily, as soon as we finished that, we were straight back in the studio going, let's start writing even better music.
It's good to know that we sort of did this and there's still ideas in the band. It's not like, right, we've exhausted all ideas, we've got nothing left in the tank.
Give up, go home lads, this is the one, this was it.
I sang about all that stuff that happened to me, and now it's out there in the world and I don't have to write about it anymore.
And it's just, as long as you have ideas, you will keep doing it.
Because I have to sing a lot of these songs live.
And when we run out of ideas, we'll still keep doing it like Iron Maiden.
You'll just sound exactly the same.
The feelings do come back sometimes on stage, so it's a weight off my shoulders, but not all of the weight's gone.
After such a difficult couple of years, it was really nice to feel that excited about music again. I think because of that, Suffering Silence is always going to have like a special place in my heart.
You know, I think in general it was a positive thing to get it out, and so I'm feeling good about it. I'm feeling good. This album means it's gonna mean a little something different to whoever listens to it.
Well, I think it's kind of growing through struggle and sort of moving on and kind of progressing, I suppose, as a person.
To me, it's about feeling like you have nothing and you don't really know where to turn, but coming to terms with that and learning how to cope and how to start again.
And because that's now off my chest, I kind of want to go back to the outward sort of thing, you know, talking about other things in the world that, you know, annoy me, upset me, feel like I need to sing about. So I guess that's how the next one will be different.
I see it as growth and acceptance.
For me, it's like almost a statement of, we've all had that feeling. We've all been there. We all feel exactly what Jake was feeling when he wrote those lyrics, and we're all okay in the end. We all move through it, and then you got to remember that when you're going through those feelings. But everyone's going to have their own meaning, and that's what I like about it the most.
But what I wanted to say with this album was that you shouldn't take the people that you care about for granted, because, you know, that stuff isn't infinite. You're not going to be with the same people, you know, for infinity. So you kind of need to savor the time you have with them, because nothing lasts forever.
Smashing it, boy!
Excellent. That's on the recording as well.